Miguel, my first question is for you. How do you advise these people? Because I've talked to a few people in the audience and they're like, I don't know enough about Barcelona. Who is the right person to contact to as the first point of contact in a community?
Well, I think there are different options, and you can be kind of lucky or knowing somebody that could be an enabler. But I think that since we started here in the late 90s, many things have changed, and you have plenty of organizations that can help you, like the ones that we are all representing. I think Tech Barcelona would be one of the places that you can come in, right? Let's say as a young entrepreneur, you can come and you can become a member for what I would say a ridiculous price, so not barrier for anybody to get in, and that would give you already an access to an interesting community. So this is one of the ways to do it.
And how about like meeting somebody with your same nationality? For me, with ski, it was paramount that when I went to Silicon Valley, you are Catalan, and I met you. We were able to bond deeper, perhaps because we shared a background and an origin, right? So for Italians here, would you be advisable to find some Italian individual or maybe some Italian-based communities, or for German? What's your advice on this?
Let me give you another anecdote. When I arrived to Silicon Valley, 2005, one of the first persons that I met was Marco, which was already established there, right? He was at Google. So I think that what we did, at least what I did when I was an early entrepreneur, I think I really worked very hard, as you did, in my agenda. Meaning, I did my research, I looked for the people that could be interesting or that I really would want to meet, and then I just did it. As you did, and as entrepreneurs usually do. Today, I think you have the tools to do that, and I think there is a community in Barcelona that is open enough to really give you access to wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So to give a little bit more background, the way I met him is because I found out there was a community, there was an association that's called Barcelona San Francisco, and what they bridge is Barcelona and San Francisco. So my reasoning was like, if I have to meet somebody in San Francisco, I know absolutely no one, I'm going to reach out to these people, and they were kind enough to answer to me, and I was absolutely nobody, still am. But like back then, I didn't even have a company, so it was really, I don't know, it was quintessential, the fact that you answered to me, and even as an entrepreneur who was just relocating there and willing to start from the ground up, and you answered. My second question I wanted to ask, this one is for the whole panel, because as I said, I'm going to play the bad cop here. Everybody talks about Barcelona as the best place to live, we're so cool, we're like top whatever in this industry, this whatnot. Everybody should relocate here because the conditions of life and work is improving, the startup ecosystem is booming and whatnot. We've all heard that, that's in the news, that's in every report out there. But what are the bad things? What can we do better? Albert, maybe you want to go first. What's one thing we should improve about our ecosystem?
Well, I would say a lot of things. If you look at the report, let me just think one good point, that is Barcelona is the first city with no being a capital on that country. What I think it's quite good, and we have to also to remark. But yes, okay, this is just a good point. Let's go for the bad points. So 5 years ago, we start from ACCIO, that point on open innovation programs and going to see some corporates in order to collaborate with startups. 5 or 6 years ago, there was just a bunch of corporates, maybe 20, Telefónica, Repsol, Acciona, and so on, Fluidra, and so on. But the most of them haven't heard nothing about startups and startup ecosystem, wall, and so on. So nowadays, a lot of things have changed, ecosystem has been developed a lot, but still I would say that SMEs needs to be more confident and aware about the startup world and why they need to collaborate and to invest or to collaborate somehow with startups. We are on that point, I think, from ACCIO, challenging with that.
So the collaboration or the reach to bridging corporates and startups would be something that we need to improve. We touched very briefly on something like taxes, right? But that's something that doesn't really depend on Barcelona. That is on a regional level, especially some taxes are like on the Catalan level, or Catalonia as a region, and some others come from the Spanish government, right? How do you think, what's the impact in terms of like balancing it out right now of the current politics for the companies that want to come here, whether it's a Spanish level or Catalan level, not so much Barcelona, because we know it already of Barcelona, that you're not very fans of what it's here, right? But do you think that we can pressure to change things? There was the startup law being passed last year, which was a good surprise to a lot of people. We didn't expect that, but what's the role how can we improve that as leaders of the ecosystem?
Let me answer that question that I see the glass mid-full. Okay, there are some explorators in this panel, people that in 2016, or Miquel, I don't know, or Albert that has always connected dots. Of course, you're an example, Àlex. Today we have governments very aware of the cost opportunity of not promoting these kind of changes. But we need to understand that the innovation, change, need to think in big but walking very small. It requires time, and Rome was not built in one day. Answering completely your question, there are two laws that have put in practice the last year after a lot of people that have been working in all the ecosystem. Spain, Barcelona has a community, ecosystem. This is a magic word that thanks to technology we connect the global talent worldwide, okay? This is the case of the law of startups that was recently published last year, with the objective not only to benefit these Brexit tax and attracting scale-ups and tech visa, and the second example that we want to change, and I'm talking we, because the change, we should be part of this change. It's not only governments. If we need things happen, we want things to make happen, we need to sit all the stakeholders on the table. Governments, of course, is one stakeholders, investors, corporates, and so on, okay? The second law that we would put in practice regarding to that is science law. Just to change the model of transferring the knowledge to the market in Europe. Instead of publishing a lot of papers, a lot of patents, why not thinking on the real impact that we are providing to the market? So, but they are put in practice. The governments are very convinced. From my angle, let me share with you that we did our best from our capital, working with the governments and stakeholders in the ecosystem. We are now launching several deep tech funds in the ecosystem. European level, Catalonian level, or in Spanish, there are regions that are trying to promote this investment to the early stage deep tech to transform real market value. And the second initiative, as an example of that, is an initiative that we launched last year. It was called Àlex. It's around frontier materials. Frontier materials with the next revolution, remanded name, materials. Materials is everywhere, but we are more obsessed in how to get rid of these pandemics, in artificial intelligence and internet. It will be for example, the next revolution, the humanity will be around materials, but we don't have 8 billion that Manchester invest a year in graphene. And we don't have a lot of examples to be part of this 3 trillion conversation a year that is already happening worldwide. But we convinced working stakeholders, corporates, and so on, flexibilizing tax, researching the conditions to attract these 3 materials conversion during 3 years to connect to our ecosystem. This is the kind of things that we're putting on practice, but it requires time. But the government won't be able to work alone. Corporates push the government. Corporates bring examples. There are good examples here of huge corporates that are doing really spectacular things. I won't say names because I won't make friends. I have this ability, okay? But it's a question of working together, and we are very aware of that. But it's time to go beyond the picture and market on the paper.
I agree, and one of the strengths of Barcelona, I think, is that we're able to survive and thrive in spite of all the political and financial pressure that we receive from the Spanish government. So that's why I think it's good to come here, because we always find a way out. Another thing that Miquel and Miguel touched upon is that how do we train the new investors, right? We don't have seasoned investors. Normally, now there are successful entrepreneurs who have made their exits, they have IPO'd, and they have turned investors. Some of them have created VCs like Olaidon, for instance, or K-Fund in Spain. But still, we need more examples of that. And mostly 10, 15 years ago, most investors in Spain were former bankers. Therefore, they don't have the entrepreneurial mentality, they have a banker mentality, right? They expect a return right away, they're not very keen on risk, they don't understand certain business models. They're like, blockchain, what the fuck is that? I don't understand. And fintech is something really bad, because I heard from it, somebody told me it's really bad, I don't really know why, but I shouldn't invest in that. So how do we go about training the new leaders in the venture capital and the new business angels with the new technologies and shaking off all of their former banker perspective?
what is happening here, maybe it's all Europe, I suppose, is that years ago we had, let's say, business angels investing in startups, seed rounds. We had VCs investing in scale-up companies, rounds more than $500,000. And now what is happening is that in our meetings we have everyone that wants to invest in startup companies. And when I say everyone, I mean even friends and family that maybe they invested in some French company some years ago, and then things went no bad, and then they came there to meet us, and they want to follow investment, even with small tickets, but they are doing. Then also we have VCs investing in seed rounds. That this was not happening years ago, but now it's happening. And we have family office maybe that they were habituated to invest in maybe real estate or something like this, that they are now coming to invest in startups. Then what we see is that, let's say before the pandemic, maybe in each meeting we had about 70, 80 investors attending. Now we have 3 times this. Sometimes more than almost 300 investors attending our meetings. And when I look at the list, because now it's not looking at the faces, because many of them are not in person, but online. When I look at the list of the attendees into our meetings, what I see that it's everyone there. There is particulars, individuals, VCs, some from South America, from North America, Europe, business angels, then also corporates, also industrials. This is what our feeling about this.
And lastly, my name is Àlex, chapter director of Scaleup in Barcelona, and the way I can help you is introducing you to all of these people, even if they don't answer your emails because they're really busy. Just kidding, they answer all the time, but maybe you want to meet somebody in the industry. We're like an open door to everybody, every actor in the startup ecosystem, and also corporates. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Mind the Bridge, for the opportunity.